Hello guys, so 8.1 is just around the corner at this point, and all of my videos going over different 8.1 things have kind of been spread out between each PTR build and stuff, so in this video I'm going to be going over every change to Elemental Shamans in 8.1 and kind of briefly discussing my thoughts on them to kind of summarize what the past like 8.1 videos have essentially been. So big shout out to Wowhead for making this large post going over every change between now and 8.1. So they saved me a lot of time by doing this, otherwise I would have had to go back and look at every different build and everything. So definitely check out this post if you want to know about other classes and everything and want to read it for yourself. I'll have a link in the description. We're going to head down to the Shaman here. There are a lot of 8.1 changes. Still scrolling. And that's Rogue. And here's Shaman. Okay. So this first thing is just an aura modifier. I believe it is nerfing the cost of Healing Surge, making it cost less. By that I mean like 19% instead of 20%. I don't know. It's just a change to the mana cost, I believe. And here it looks like a nerf to the actual healing. I'm not sure exactly what this actually is, if I'm being honest. But it doesn't look like it's very influential either way. It's just a minor change to Healing Surge. Then we got Earth Shock being nerfed from 250% spell power to 210%. Relatively minor nerf. I believe that was like 16 or 18% nerf. Can't remember the exact number, but it was somewhere in that range. And then Earthquake was buffed. I believe this was the 15% buff we received to Lightning Bolt, Earthquake, and Chain Lightning, but it could be a separate one. Not 100% sure on that. And it also got its range change from 35 yards to 40 yards, which is definitely a nice change because a little awkward having our AoE ability be a 5-yard shorter range than everything else. That was just a little odd. This change is not something you need to worry about. They are just changing Fire Ellie from a cooldown to a recharge. My assumption on this is that it's making it easier for them in the back end to code in the Surge of Power Lava Burst effect, which, if you don't know what that is, we will talk about that in a little bit. But long story short about the Fire Ellie changes, nothing's actually changing. Flame Shock got the duration increased from 18 seconds to 24 seconds, which is pretty big. And it also got a damage buff accordingly, so each tick will still do the same amount of damage, which is definitely a nice, thoughtful change by them as well. So on live right now, let's say your Flame Shock hits for 1,000 each tick. On 8.1, you will have a 24-second duration, and it will still hit for 1,000 each tick. So pretty nice change there, pretty good feeling having that extra long Flame Shock. And now, to go along with the Earth Shock nerf, we got a pretty big Lightning Bolt buff from 50% spell power to 70%. About a 40% buff overall to the damage of Lightning Bolt. But they are removing some of the Lightning Bolt-centric talents, so it's going to be not going to be pigeonholed into that or anything, but it is a nice little buff to Lightning Bolt. And their goal with this was to make less of your damage come directly from Earth Shock and more of it come from like other spells. And they may have gone a little too far. Lava Burst feels kind of weak right now, in my opinion, but the other downside of this is movement is going to hurt a bit more. Unfortunately, the Ice Fury changes that I'll talk about really soon now actually help with movement a lot. But every time you move and you're not casting Lightning Bolts, you're going to be suffering a bit more than you would normally. And then Overload just got a tooltip change, nothing actually changing there. Another tooltip change here on Aftershock, Earthshock, and Earthquake instead of all of your spells. But yeah, Earthshock and Earthquake are the only spells that cost Maelstrom, so nothing actually changing there. Earth and Rage was Exposed Elements was removed. Earth and Rage replaced Exposed Elements. Moved down from the 90 row. Elemental Blast just got a tooltip update saying it can cause an elemental overload, but that was already the case, so nothing actually changed there. Ice Fury now increases the damage of the next 4 Frost Shocks by 200% instead of 100%, and the Frost Shocks generate 8 Maelstrom. This feels so good on the PTR, and Ice Fury itself generates 25 Maelstrom, so a massive Maelstrom generator you got here, and the Frost Shocks do a pretty good amount of damage, and Ice Fury just couldn't be happy with how Ice Fury feels right now. Of course, we will be telling you what the best talents are and stuff on Stormwrath and Lava, and I'll be making a guide and stuff on that once more information is known. But I can tell you right now that feeling-wise, Ice Fury feels pretty good to play. It also says can cause an elemental overload, but that was already the case as well. So Master of the Elements now includes physical spells, which sounds like a really weird thing to say, but basically they're just adding Earthquake to it. It's pretty rare you get to take advantage for this, but like 2 and 3 targets it could be kind of nice because you're getting a lot of Lava Surge procs, and normally you'd be losing them every time you Earthquake, or like rather, you're not losing them, but you'd be overlapping a lot. Now you can put something in for every single one, nice little damage boost to that. And this was moved from the 30 row to the 60 row, and a new talent was put in the place on the 30 row called Call the Thunder. Call the Thunder increases your max Maelstrom by 30, and the cost of Earthshock and Earthquake reduced by 10. So now you have 130 Maelstrom, and Earthshock and Earthquake cost 50 Maelstrom. This does stack with the PvP talent, so you can have up to 180 Maelstrom in PvP. You can cast 2 Earthshocks in a row that would stun something, and cast 3 Earthshocks in a row in general. Lots of potential for some crazy stuff to happen there, but we'll see how it turns out. There's also a new talent on the 90 row replacing Earth and Rage, or replacing where Earth and Rage previously was. That is called Surge of Power. Earthshock enhances your next spell cast within 15 seconds, depending on what spell you cast. So Flame Shock, it will now spread to an additional target within 8 yards of the target. Lightning Bolt, your next cast will cause an additional 1 to 3 elemental overloads. Lava Burst reduces the cooldown of your fire or storm elemental by 6 seconds. And Frost Shock freezes the target in place for 6 seconds. Now, for one thing, I just want to talk about this talent for a second because I'm really interested in this talent and I love this thing. But Flame Shock part of it is a huge trap because there's almost no situations. In fact, there is no situations. I guess there might be one situation or whatever when you're like funneling damage, but there's essentially no situations where you'd be using Earthshock with 2 targets. Every time you Earthshock, generally there's only 1 target because on 2 targets, Earthquake is pretty large amount of extra damage. So having an empowerment from Earthshock that makes your Flame Shock spread to another target that's within Earthquake range is kind of just trapping people into using that when they shouldn't be. So not very happy about that part of it. The Lightning Bolt part, as far as we can tell, is not influenced by Mastery. If I remember correctly, it's just like a flat percent chance. It was like 2% for 3 overloads, 18% for 2, and 88% for 3, or for 1 rather, if I remember right. I'll show you on the screen what the smart people came up with on that one. But it's not influenced by Mastery, and you can still get in a normal overload as well, so it shouldn't really devalue Mastery much either. We will see how it actually ends up being, but that is what we can tell from now. And the Lava Burst one is just kind of weak. Don't really like that one that much. But the Lightning Bolt one adds really interesting gameplay mechanics with like Stormkeeper and stuff. But we're going to move on from that. Stormily, another tooltip thing. Stormkeeper now increases the damage of your Lightning Bolts by 150%. Now, it does not increase the damage of your Chain Lightnings though. But this is pretty big when you pack it with Surge of Power. Because extra overloads, 150% more damage, that's a lot of damage. So that is a pretty cool thing to have as well. It's increasing your ability to do single target when you're like PvPing and you want Stormkeeper. And in Mythic Plus, if you're using a Stormkeeper for the AoE, you also have a good burst single target now for the bosses. It's overall, I really like this change. It feels a lot better to have Stormkeeper on single target. Now, there's one change to PvP talents here. Lightning Lasso now does $1% of the target's maximum health instead of $1. Now, what this actually means is like 48% of a target's maximum health, which is a lot of damage, of course, but I do think this is a little overrated because you have to keep in mind that, for one thing, it can be interrupted, and even if you interrupt it, it still triggers a stun diminishing return, so you may have just wasted your diminishing return on like nothing, and you didn't get much damage out of it. And you also have to keep in mind that if the stun is already DR'd and you start casting this, you're not going to get the full damage out. So there are a lot of downsides to this, but in situations like 1v1, or probably even 2v2, this would be really big, potentially. This could be huge. But for 3s, I'm not really sure how good this will be unless you get some really good cross CC. Well, that is just my opinion on the Lightning Lasso thing. I think it's a little overrated, but I do still think it's quite good. Now, Purifying Waters, it looks like it was removed from Resto, but I don't know why that's under the Ellie part. But I do believe this is everything for Ellie Talents. I have one more thing I want to show you. So I will see you in the training dummy area in 1 second. The last thing I wanted to show you is not actually something I have gone over at all yet, because it came out like really recently. But they added a new animation to Earthshock. So I haven't checked if the chest changed the sound or not. But this is the new animation for Earthshock. Earth and Rage made that a little hard to tell. I'll do it one more time. But basically it's like rocks form around the target and then kind of pop in on the target. They did sound like a different it did sound like a different sound actually. But the animation's kind of cool. The one thing I don't like about it is, based on testing from members of Earth Shrine, it does not seem to scale with target size. So you may not see it at all in raids. But it is a pretty cool animation. If that thing scales with target size, it could be really cool. And they did actually delay the damage visual, but I don't think they delayed the actual damage. So that's kind of fine. I don't really see why that would ever be a problem. Let me just double check that real quick. Now the damage itself isn't actually delayed at all, it's just the visual. So that's kind of neat because it coincides with the rock hitting the target, but just wanted to show that in game. I don't really know if I can compare it to current Earthshock, but current Earthshock is just like a little shock. A little lightning circle on the chest of the target, so this one's definitely a little cooler. So I was looking for a spot to record the outro, and then I fell in this hole and I can't seem to get out. So we're going to do it here. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're excited for 8.1. I'm quite excited. I do wish there was a little bit more changes for like baseline Ellie Shaman, but the talent changes we got, I'm a very big fan of. So at least the changes we got were pretty nice, but could have gotten a little more changes, of course. Always could have gotten more changes. But I'm pretty excited to play Ellie in 8.1. Seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed as well, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.